Yo, what's good, friends? TEAL6 back again. It's really late my time, so I'll try and make this a quick one, even though I've said that a bunch of times and haven't done it. Um, I just want to start this recording. The rest of the recording has nothing to do with Oris UU, but I want to start this recording by reminding you all to sign up for the UU Open, first tournament of Grand Slam. I'll probably at some point go over my Grand Slam games on the channel, not the new ones. I don't know if I'm going to play this iteration myself, but as you can see, I am actually hosting the tournament this time, so make sure to sign up. I'll make sure it's a smoothly run tournament. You can find this thread by going into the Grand Slam section and just posting in, like everyone here. Give my friend Rody a like, and move on to the games. So I'll probably name this video something like the comeback. Basically, I am also a player on a website called PokemonPerfect.com. It's run by Lutra, who is one of my SPL teammates. Really great guy. Has taught me a lot. He also beat Tiba, who is probably the best RBY player in a tiebreaker series in SPL. We ended up losing the tiebreaker to go into playoffs, but unfortunately, yeah, no one thought, people thought Lucha was the sacrificial lamb, and it turned out that he was able to win. That was a great series, a great time, kind of what makes SPL so special. But I'm digressing as usual. Pokemon Perfect, there are seasons, RBY seasons that are run, and this is also how I actually learned to play RBY. This and the Runes Valve Major League, which is another tournament that Lutra hosts, but that one's on Smogon. So yeah, over on Pokemon Perfect, there are seasons, and I think we're in the 20-something season, or no, I'm sorry. We are in, I think it's like the 9th or 8th season, something like that. And each season has 3 what they call Masters tournaments, which is the high-level RBY tournament. You enter there, and depending on how well you do in that tournament, you get a certain number of points. And after the 3 tournaments are completed, the person with the most points wins the season. There's cash prize associated for first and second place, I believe. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't actually gotten first or second yet. I think in my first season, this is my second season now. In my first season, I think I got 3rd or 4th place. I think it was 4th. Because I did well in one tournament and I made it to the finals where I lost to Alexander, who, I've mentioned on this channel a bunch of times. He's taught me a lot about RBY as well. I lost to Alexander in the finals, and I didn't do too well in the other 2 tournaments. In this season, my second season, I got to the finals of the first tournament, and I beat one opponent. I forget who it was, but I lost to Lush, the German player, in finals. It was a 3-way tie for in the finals. So we had to play between the 3 of us, and Lush beat both of us. So going into this series, I think the way they did pairings was a little weird. I won my first round, and I was I'm the second seed because of the points that I've amassed over the past few tournaments. I've done pretty well. But I got Marco, who was the first seed. For those of you that don't know, I'll just start this just so we can have some mods on the screen. For those of you who don't know, Marco ASD is probably considered number 2, 3, 4 in the RBY player rankings. Very good player, very consistent player, RBY main, Italian player, and Italians are probably the strongest overall in RBY. Basically, just a player that you gotta be scared about. I've faced off against Marco twice now after this series. This is the second time I've played him. The first time I played him, I actually won 3-2, and all of the RNG went my way. I was critting with Snorlax on command, and for those of you that don't know, Snorlax's crit rate is like 5% in RBY, something around there. It's like 5.8 maybe. So I was a much worse player at RBY then, despite my recent World Cup record, 0-3. I think I've gotten a lot better at the tier. And hopefully this series, as you can tell by the title of this video, hopefully this series really does mark my comeback. I think I was a bit tilted after losing round 1 of Classic. Every time I lose a major tournament that I've gone far in, I kind of just like fuck off for like a month or two. Hopefully this period of tilt wears itself out a little more quickly, because I really do want to, make a comeback and play well for the rest of World Cup in the playoff series. And yeah, there's nothing like playing a really good opponent and playing up to your standard to kind of snap yourself out of tilt. And Marco kind of represented that for me. I know we both take these tournaments kind of seriously. So let's see. Alright, so turn 1, I use a pretty unorthodox lead in Hypno. He uses a also unorthodox lead in Jolteon. His is a little less unorthodox, like Hypno's not seen very often. Hypno's pretty good because it's bulky and it can carry both Hypnosis and Thunder Wave on one set. The only other Mons in the tier that can really do that are Chansey, which is Sing and T-Wave, and Exeggutor with Sleep Powder and Stun Spore. Both of those are on my team, but I don't lead with them because they have less favorable matchups against a lot of the things that you'll see leading. And yeah, so Hypno's a pretty interesting choice. I actually do like it a lot. I don't know if I'll use it regularly, but it's fun to pull out every now and then. So I go for the Hypnosis right on his Jolteon, knowing that the best he can really do is T-Wave me. He brings in Exeggutor. You play it almost exactly like Alakazam. If he stays asleep, I can kill him in 4 hits. I miss my Hypnosis, so I get a little greedy, think I'm going to hit 2 60% accurates, and he sleeps me. I know he can't really touch me because all he can do is Psychic, and like Hyper Beam's not going to do very much, so I burn my sleep turn as he switches out to Starmie. So I basically already know his team. It should be Jolteon, Starmie, and then the big 4, Eggy, Chansey, Snorlax, Tauros. He Blizzards, fishing for Freeze. That makes a lot of sense. He Paralyzed Starmie is a lot worse than, it's not like the other Mons in the tier where it's like generally okay-ish if you're parried. Starmie kind of needs to not be parried as long as possible. He goes right into Chansey. I take my opportunity and just T-Wave. I probably could have Ice Beamed. I probably could have T-Bolted, done something else. But that's whatever. I bring Snorlax in knowing that Snorlax has a pretty decent shot at beating a paralyzed Chansey, especially a Bolt Beam one, but unfortunately he freezes me on the first Ice Beam and I'm forced to switch out. So I bring in my Exeggutor as he brings in his Snorlax, hoping to gain a little momentum on his part. I switch right over into Tauros, knowing that he's going to go into his Chansey, and then I bring my Chansey and I end up getting... I'm thinking that maybe I can draw one of these in when I switch to my Chansey. That was the play there. I didn't actually want to go with Tauros because I didn't want to risk that T-Wave. So I'm kind of weak against this Chansey with a frozen Snorlax and something already... his frozen Snorlax, and I actually don't have anything asleep right now, but because it's parried, I can't threaten it with sleep. So I'm just going to Psychic him down. I get some special drops. It's looking pretty... So here... not just yet. Okay, so I Psychic him again. I'm doing a pretty sizable chunk of damage because of the drops. I know he's not going to want to stay in. He wants to reset those, take a new, a resisted Psychic, do no damage on Starmie, and then bring this back in, kind of do whatever he feels like. Like, he can stall me out for a good amount of time, he can make me actually waste all my Psychics. I predict the switch, but unfortunately I don't get the 56% or so chance of hitting the Sleep Powder. So I know it's not worthwhile to waste my Exeggutor or even risk taking the Blizzard, so I just bring in Chansey, knowing that he can heal up for free because he's 40% gone on his Chansey. I double out into my Tauros. He's in Hyper Beam range. I know Marco's a good enough player that he's not gonna risk like me going for the beam there or getting the Body Slam crit or his Chansey getting paralyzed. So he's going to, and the most he can do really is pair me back. Not a great trade for him, so he's not gonna stay in there. I go for the Body Slam and hit the Starmie. I really want to pair on this, but I don't get it. I do get the crit, however. I'm sorry about that. He just goes for the T-Wave, kind of a mid-ground play. I think he's going to switch out because he doesn't want to star me to get paired, because then Tauros can beat it a lot more easily. But instead, he just goes for the recover. I don't like that, so I get out of there, and he's still keeping me honest by going for T-Wave. So I soft-boiled my Chansey up as he brings the Snorlax in. Like I said before, Snorlax has a pretty good chance of beating Paralyzed Chansey. I don't have anything that I really want to take a Body Slam from, so I think this is an appropriate time to bring in my Lax and just let it go down. He gets his Reflect up, kind of shitty for me, but I'm still staying in. I'm still going to just let it kill me. I bring Lapras in because I don't want to play the Tauros vs Snorlax games, and I know he does like to run the Snorlax that I do. To be honest, I think I stole it from him and Alex. The Body Slam, Reflect, Rest, Self-Destruct Snorlax. So I bring Lapras in, and I'm just looking to Blizzard, get some hefty Blizzards off. Body Slams me. He does get the pair, which is kind of unfortunate. Brings me down to below half as I get another Blizzard off, and I think, yep, right there, I freeze. Not the most opportune time to freeze, because if I could get it later, I would take it, but he's going to stay in. He's not going to risk anything else coming in, even though I think he could have. So I take out Snorlax, and my Lapras is a bit worse for wear right now. So he brings in Jolteon. I think he's expecting me, to go right to Exeggutor, and he wants to use this as an opportunity to get his Chansey back up. So Marco just forced me into a play there. He kind of dictated what would happen, knowing that I wouldn't throw away my Lapras. Good play on him. I'm still pretty weak to Chansey, considering I don't have Snorlax anymore, and my best bet is either Psychic Drops or getting a little bit lucky with Tauros or PP War with my own Chansey. I don't want to play that game, so I just go for Boom. I'm okay with that. I do still have my Hypno, who is, he's asleep, but he could realistically wake up against quite a few things on Marco's team that he has shown. I could realistically, it's possible I could get another Sleep Off in this game. So I bring my Tauros out as he brings his Exeggutor out. Unfortunately for me, that's not a great matchup. I don't want to take the damage because I don't want to auto-lose the Tauros War. So I go out into my Hypno, and I think now is as good a time as any to try and wake up. I sleep for another turn. I take a Body Slam here, and I do wake up here. I am in Hyper Beam range. There's nothing I really want to go out into. Tauros could take one, Lapras could take one, Chansey I would never bring in on that no matter what. He goes for the Body Slam. I decide to just, knowing instead he doesn't want to beam right away, I guess. I decide not to risk the Hypnosis, because if I do miss and he slams twice, I just lose my Hypno for absolutely no gain, and then I'm at a neutral advantage in the Tauros War. That's to come. So instead, I go for Thunder Wave and make sure that my Tauros will outspeed him. I also get a big chunk of damage off with the Psychic, as he kills me with the Body Slam. So Hypno did a decent amount of work this game. Unfortunately, Exeggutor woke up a little too quickly and put Hypno to sleep when I missed the Hypnosis, but getting the Para on Tauros, getting a little bit of damage on Exeggutor, getting a little bit of early game momentum, I think it did its job. I bring Lapras out knowing that I can live one of anything, barring a crit, and I get the Blizzard off on Starmie. Here's a bad play on my part. Should have kept Lapras right where it was. Instead, I get the T-Bolt off on Starmie, but of course he can obviously just recover on me. I decide to save it as sack fodder, go right out into my Chansey. He has no reason to stay in and let this die. I wear the Tauros down a little bit and decide now's a fine time to sack Lapras. If he gets paired, I can get a nice hit off and gain even a little bit more momentum, but that's not in the cards. Tauros on Tauros. I should have just went for the Hyper Beam roll there, but I didn't want him to do something funky. Instead, I end up taking over half my health off on Tauros. That's a misplay on my part, is a bad play. So I think it's fine for me to go into Chansey as he recovers his Starmie. I'm just going to T-Wave this. I don't really know why he stays in. It's not a bad play to stay in. He doesn't have to switch out, but he didn't have to let that get parried either. So I Ice Beam the Exeggutor, knowing it's going to come in. He's not going to let this get paired and weakened. He still wants to be able to get one hit off on me. Next turn, I obviously cannot lose. Well, this is a little harder to say. I was thinking I could sack my Tauros here if he did Boom T1, or T5 too, I guess. If he did that, Chansey has a decent chance of beating these two, but realistically, Jolteon's probably going to get the crit at some point, or if I get parried. Chansey takes like 62% from a Jolteon double kick crit. But if it doesn't get that, I could beat it. It's hard to say. I think I made the right play. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to lose. So he brings Jolteon out, T-Waves me, which is smart because then as long as I don't crit, he's able to get a hit off with Jolteon and a hit off with Starmie, provided he doesn't para. And he just ends the game. So I'm down 0-1. Pokemon Perfect tournament series are best of 5, which I think is a lot better for RBY. Just mitigates a little bit of the hacks. The better player usually wins. And it also helps certain players be more consistent in the tier. So game 2, I go to more traditional lead, Alakazam. I love pairing Starmie, and I think Alakazam can live with being paired a lot more than Starmie can. I'm sorry. Also, it's very late for me, so sorry if my focus is a bit off. So looking at this, yeah, Alakazam can live with being paired because it still kind of performs the same against like Chansey and stuff like that, and like nothing wants to switch in on it. Alakazam hits pretty hard. Even like resist can get crit like super often. So I seismic toss him off the bat. It's 30%, so it's a 4-hit KO. As you can see here, a psychic crit, like going for psychic against Starmie or opposing Alakazam, has a secondary kind of ambition to it. Like, yeah, you might do a little less damage, but if you rack up some special drops, all of a sudden Psychic's doing way more than Seismic Toss. And also the crits do more damage, so you can put certain things in 3-hit KO range rather than 2, which is rather than 4, which is a pretty big difference. So I Psychic him again. I'm fishing for that drop. He is gonna switch out here because he does have it, and if I get one more, I'm pressuring him a ton. I call that pretty well and go into my Exeggutor as he goes into Chansey. He's certainly not going to risk me sleep powdering Chansey. Marco's not insane. So I go out into my really cool Mon here, Pinsir. Pinsir is like generally garbage-ish. There's a few things you can run. The set that I'm using I stole from Alex. It is Sword Stance, Bind, Hyper Beam, and Body Slam. So Pinsir is a wrapper basically, but it's a wrapper that gets SD, which is pretty cool. So I get my Pinsir in on his Starmie, and I would just want to start binding this down, like, you know, just the way wrappers always do. Unfortunately, I miss because that's 75% accuracy, but he does pair. So I get my bind off. Here's some boring turns where I bind away, and as you all should know, any wrap moves in RBY, it's not like in later gens where it does a small amount of damage per turn like that. Instead, what wrap does is if I hit you with it, you literally cannot move during that period. So he brings his Tauros in as I bind again. You know, he's under my spell. He can't do anything. Also, the turn that I switch out, he still gets the can't move signal. So I switch out and use this as a chance to go into Snorlax, knowing I could get a pretty big hit off. But I double out into Exeggutor, thinking that he'll want to go into his own Lax, or maybe into his Chansey and then reflect soft-boiled and kind of play those games. So I get my Eggy in again, which is pretty nice. I'm threatening the sleep. Here he outpredicts me. I'm like, oh, okay, Marco's not crazy again. Like, he's gonna go to one of these, or I'm sorry, into Starmie to absorb the sleep. But I guess looking at it, it is pretty low, so if I get the Psychic off, he can be in beam range pretty quickly. Unfortunately, I get 1 out of 256 and miss my own Psychic as he body slams. He doesn't get the pair, which is quite nice. He goes out in the Starmie. I get pretty stubborn and decide to call the play again. I Psychic into him, and then he's actually in beam range here, but I shouldn't have gone for it because it is such a poor roll that I don't think beam was worth it. So now I have to sit tight for a turn as he's going to Blizzard me or recover or something. I should have just followed up on my special drop. So I decided not to let Eggy get parried or Blizzarded, and I think Alakazam's a fine switch, especially with that at -1. He's going right out in Chansey. I forget what I go for there. I'm like, F it, I'm just going to pair this Chansey. So now Pinsir has an even easier time binding things away. And for a few turns you will see the... Oh, nope, I'm sorry, he switches to get rid of the special drop pretty quickly. But I get some good fortune, get the crit. He's in 2 KO range from Seismic Toss, so all I need is 1 para, and then Starmie is mine. But I don't get it exactly there. And here I'm just going to chip away, hope for some paras, knowing he can't really do too much to me. pair myself as he blizzards. Now is a fine time for me to recover, as he knows that, and he goes right out into a Snorlax to pressure me even more. For my part, I can go to my own Snorlax. It's a decent-ish check, especially because I'm Reflect self-destruct, but so is he. So we play these games for a little bit. He rests pretty early. That's an odd trait from Marco. I don't know why he rests so early. I'm a bit lower, so resting is appropriate for me. Obviously, when you're doing a Snorlax versus Snorlax war, your considerations are more on PP rather than they are on crit chances. It's not like Tauros where you're kind of like gonna get a crit eventually. Snorlax can really run through all of its PP without getting a crit the entire time. So we're just body slamming. He rests kind of early, like I said. I eventually do get a crit, which is fortunate. But the unfortunate part is he is out of range. If I got it one body slam later, it would have been very nice. And he wins the speed tie anyway, is able to rest up on me. For my part, I body slam into him and then take my own turn to rest. So we go here. He actually has not slept anything yet, so I'm fine with going to Zam. I don't want to take a Psychic and then have to switch into a Sleep Powder or another Psychic, so I think that was a fine play. Chansey versus Zam is again one of those really weird, really kind of math-oriented, luck-oriented matchups. Knowing that he's going to softball, I decide just to wake my Lax up. I think he probably goes for T-Wave there so he can reflect on me and then play that whole game. He paras, and now is my chance. Yep, there's Reflect. Here's my chance to kind of play this game versus Chansey. I do not get the paras that I need, so it's like, alright, time for me to go back to Zam and do this again. So look at how much those crits are doing, and Zam is a pretty reliable critter. I get really lucky here. Para, and then one more para, and I don't para this entire time, so that's very, very much in his favor to get that soft-boiled off. But, you know, that's how RBY is. So he goes into Lax, just trying to wake it up on my Zam. I decide to risk losing the momentum here where I could possibly get paralyzed, and instead just T-Wave his Lax. This gives me potential to get free turns with my own Lax. Like, you know, if he body slams right off the bat like that, now he can't like comfortably go for Reflect because I can body slam if he paras, then we're playing a whole different ball game. So this is why he goes back into his Exeggutor. I predicted the switch there. I wasn't 100% sure exactly what he would go to, but I thought Boom would be a fine play just to really pull momentum into my favor. Now it's time for my Tauros to go in. He decides to keep it because he probably wants the Boom at some juncture. So I slam right into I slam at his Eggy, but it hits his Snorlax. I get the crit on the second one. Probably shouldn't have stayed in on my part because of that, but since I do live it, like an alive Tauros is much better than a dead Tauros. I win the speed tie here and also get the crit. Marco gets pretty sad about that, and he just quits. Unfortunately, all the luck was in my favor that game. Well, fortunately for me. So we go into game 3, Zam versus Jinx. You should know if you watch my other videos how I like to play this now. I'm just going to sleep it. I have the chance to Blizzard here, which I go for. I get a good chunk off, and I get the freeze. So things are looking pretty good for me. I have really good early game momentum, and especially because I was able to freeze what should be his sleep fodder. I know that Eggy can get a sleep off on most things that come in here. Like, there's nothing that's going to Oko me. So he brings Snorlax in, which is a good switch into Jinx, relatively, but not a great matchup when you don't have a sleeping mon already against Exeggutor. I know he'll switch, like, he just really can't risk that, but I know his best switch in is the Frozen Alakazam, which can never unfreeze, so I don't even have to play risky. I can just go for Sleep Powder. And you'll see some funny things here, like I double up on it just to make sure he doesn't double on me or do anything funky. I get the Psychic off. I do predict at some point he's going to keep this alive, just so I can't freeze anything else. Jinx can win the war against Chansey just by blizzarding and resting over and over and over. So I'm just going to pepper in Sleep Powders here to make sure he doesn't get too jive. And he does try to. I catch the Exeggutor, and now things are really, really, really in my favor. So I get the Psychic off. I want to stun this so that I can play those Psychic games. Like, I don't have to boom into the dark, basically. I can kind of pick and choose when I do explode. Unfortunately for me, I do not hit the first stun spore, but I get the second one. Doesn't matter a ton. He's able to para me. I am just going for Psychic here. He has a 4-hit KO on me, which is a little bit annoying because, yeah, I don't know, Seismic Toss is just a bit of a pain. I decide, okay, let's just try and get the drops with Jinx instead. I can always rest on it. Jinx has already done its job. I don't need it for a ton more, especially because Exeggutor is asleep, so I don't need something that can hit it really quick and hard. So I'm going to PP stall, I'm going to Psychic. Like, I'm willing to play this game as long as he is. He's going to para me on the wake up turn, which is a smart play because now it's only 2 pairs until I die if I get 2 in a row. For my part, that's kind of a silly play going for the Psychic there, but the drop does allow me to be faster. So I rest. Chansey soft boiled on me. Seismic tosses into sleep, and he should go for the T-Wave here, but he paralyzes. So I'm fishing. All of a sudden, he's at half his special. He's got a pair of Jinx. I think he might switch out soon. He might just heal up. Yep. I get rest, and he switches out as I burn my turn. I really don't want to switch into Snorlax, but it looks like I have to. So I go out into my Chansey. I do think I am Reflect here. He goes for the boom right away just to pull my Chansey out of the way. I don't know if that was a great play, because he could have possibly done it with other things. And especially because, like, 2 of his better things versus Chansey are frozen or asleep. He's not in a great position. So we reset the matchup, and I get Snorlax in on Chansey. I get, again, very, very lucky, but this is like all of that fishing that I talk about with this matchup. I get the crit. Unfortunately for him, he goes for Reflect that turn, and obviously another one's going to kill. So I kill off the frozen Alakazam. Fine by me. Maybe I could free something later. Probably not, though. It's not going to be that likely. He brings in Zapdos and gets 2 full pairs right off the bat. I'm starting to sweat a little bit. If he gets a crit, I'm fucked. So I just boom and get Zapdos out of there. Because I still have my own Tauros, things are looking pretty great, and I have my own Zapdos. I probably can't lose this, barring terrible, terrible luck. He goes for the freeze, which is by far his best play. I pair his Tauros knowing that this is the one thing that could really turn things around for him. And I get a crit right off the bat when I do attack. His Hyper Beam does not crit, and now I think I just Drill Peck, T-Bolt, whatever. It doesn't really matter at this point. I can't lose. So for the last game, we go into here. Zam versus Gengar. This is a terrible, terrible lead for me. People have different opinions on what you should actually do in this, on both sides too. For its part, Alakazam does not kill Gengar with a Psychic, but it has, that ludicrous 30-something% chance to crit. Gengar can't. I am like 100% certain it cannot stay in here, because even if Zam T-Waves, you have a 0.75 times 0.60% chance to actually get your Hypnosis off. It's not really worth it, so I can just save Gengar for another time. I switch out into my Exeggutor. I am not sure exactly why he does. Like, I still don't understand that play that much, but Marco probably, I'm probably missing something, to be honest. Now I have a 50-50 chance of getting the first sleep of the game, and I do actually get it. So I sleep as Exeggutor. I'm just going to start Psychicking. I don't have any reason to do anything other than that. He brings out his Chansey, as I feel it appropriate to bring out my Chansey. He Seismic tosses into me twice, trying to catch me if I'm going back to Exeggutor or something. I have the Ice Beam, so this is kind of in my favor. I expect him to switch and not want to play that game, but unfortunately, Marco calls me on that. I'm not too upset, though, about getting a Para on Chansey, because, as we've seen before, Para on Chansey can really suck for it. I bring out Eggy. I just want to get those drops again. Like, I'm playing the same game, but it worked against him in the past, and I see no reason to change up my style right now. I'm just going to Psychic into him a few times, but I para, he paras. I think, oh no, it's a different game when that happened like 4 times in a row. I get my drops, he has his 4-hit KO. He's making sure he stays at a pretty good range of health so that something like Tauros can't come in and threaten it out on like a predicted soft-boiled para or something like that. Not 100% sure why he switches out, like he could have taken a few more Psychics. I am just definitely looking to explode here. He switches to Lapras, maybe to catch the Psychic and then go for the Blizzard and scare me. I bluff the Thunderbolt here because I didn't have anything that really enjoyed taking on Lapras. I bluff the Thunderbolt here, and I go for the Confuse Ray because I couldn't predict exactly what he would bring in between these three. And Confuse Ray just gives me a 50% chance of not being punished on my switch out turn. Oh, okay, no, that I think that was a fine. Aside from the fact that I activated Sleep Clause mod, I don't think going for Hypnosis there is like, terrible, because it's 50% chance, and if he T-Waves, like I have a decent shot of getting it off. But unfortunately, like I said, I forgot I already slept Executor, so that was a huge, huge misplay on my part. But the logic behind the turn wasn't terrible. So, just body slamming. He misses a Blizzard that would do about 1/3 of my health. So I managed to get my Lax out of there with little to no issue. We go Lax. I think I just Reflect right off the bat. I'm hoping that he's not Reflect so we don't have to play this game anymore. And I actually recall that I boomed the same turn that he did, so I'm pretty happy with the fact that I stayed alive and I still have my Snorlax. I know I'm still in range of Hyper Beam there, so I decided to go to Rhydon, but I get another really good piece of luck. He either calls that or Blizzard was a roll, but I don't know if it's a roll. Like, I forget that. I forget how much Blizzard does to Snorlax. So I get pretty lucky because Blizzard's 2-hit KO on Rhydon. I decided just getting damage is fine here because then I could win the Tauros War pretty easily. Unfortunately for him, he misses yet another Blizzard. It's 90% accurate in this gen, so that's pretty terrible luck. There you see how much it does, and he doesn't get the freeze. Now he's in Body Slam range nonetheless from my own Tauros, so things are looking pretty good for me. Unless he wins the Speed Tie and crits Hyper Beam here, I'm pretty safe. So he brings out Executor. I have nothing to fear by just Body Slamming a few times. Now he goes to Alakazam. I still don't want to be T-Waved, so I think it's fine to go Chansey. Get a T-Wave on him and then kind of do, whatever it is I want to do from that point. This was a really, really good play on my part, though, knowing that he doesn't want this T-Wave because he needs it faster than this. I double into Snorlax to get some utility, knowing that he would probably go into his Chansey, which is the only thing that could either absorb a T-Wave or an attack, really. And I know I more or less win the game as long as I actually hit my self-destruct, because it kind of narrows down his options. He brings out his Chansey again, because my Chansey is out of range from... Actually, you know what? I'm in range of Hyper Beam. He could have gone Tauros there, but I wouldn't have if I were him. I could, and going Gengar was fine. As long as I didn't get paired, I got this Explosion off. Explosion on Chansey puts it in range of anything I go for from my Tauros. So Body Slam, and as long as I don't get Frozen or Hyper Beam crit here, Body Slam, and I win. So I took a tournament series off of Marcoasd, my second ever. Truthfully, as you can probably tell, a lot of things went my way. I got a lot of secondary effects. I got a few crits where I really needed them. I was pretty happy. I mean, I'm pretty happy to get those, but it doesn't prove a ton about my skill. More importantly, though, mentality-wise, it really helps to beat a player like that. Like, honestly, if I could beat Marco, I could beat more or less anyone I'm going to face. He's one of the most consistent players in the gen, one of the best players in the gen. He's always top of the line in all of these tournaments. He would have been bought right off the bat in SPL if he wasn't tournament banned for cheating. But yeah, going past a player like that means a lot to me, and it's got me thinking, thinking really good. Going into tomorrow's game against Tobes is my first playoff game. Hopefully I don't lose, because going 0-4 in this tournament, or 0-5 or whatever, it would just be quite awful. But I really think I can win. I've adjusted my teams. I'm looking forward to the match rather than dreading it, which is a good way to go into these things. And don't count me out. Like, I've tilted before, and I've always come back and done even better in tiers and metagames that people did not think I could play. And this'll be it. I dropped out of Classic, and I did poor in the beginning of World Cup, but now it's going to be a change. So thanks for watching. Please remember to join UU Open, and see you next time.